I'm Josipa Petrinic, the President and CEO of the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium. Over the course of the last 2 years, CUTRIC has lobbied and advocated for the creation of a multi-billion-dollar zero-emissions bus transit fund. The intention of the fund, helping transit agencies and cities to get zero-emissions buses with all of the capital complexity out on the road as soon as possible. Allied to that fund, which was launched last year with Minister Catherine McKenna at the Ministry of Infrastructure in Canada and CUTRIC together, was also a dedicated lobby effort on behalf of CUTRIC's members and with our partners across the country for a $10 million zero emissions bus feasibility fund. That fund allows transit agencies, especially the smaller and mid-sized transit agencies, to gain access to immediate funding to do all of the physics, economics, mathematical, and social analytical work that you need to do in order to know exactly how will battery electric buses, fuel cell buses, and alternative fuel vehicles operate in your community for your riders. And I'm delighted to announce that CUTRIC has been determined to be Canada's preferred nonprofit vendor for zero emissions feasibility analysis and implementation planning. This is the work that can help you go from A to Z in terms of preparing for your full fleet implementation of decarbonized zero emissions transit buses. I'm excited to introduce you to the senior leadership team of our ZEB Consulting Services division at CUTRIC, headed up by Parvati Pillai, who is our program manager of ZEB Consulting Services. We've been able to grow and double the size of our team in the last 5 years. Parvati's been leading the zero emissions bus consulting team for half a decade, specializing her capacities in growing skill sets from GIS analysis to energy consumption, bringing on team members with expertise in facilities and depot analysis. Parvati's seen it all, she's done it all, and she's led more zero emissions bus projects in this country than any other consultant that I know in the industry. She's joined with our senior research lead, Roberto Sardenberg. Roberto is just a brilliant physicist and engineer who's been able to help us understand the ins and outs of energy consumption. He's been leading the growth of our energy analysis team within the ZEB Consulting Services for multiple years. Roberto has been able to take our modeling to the next level to get it to an even higher level of precision and accuracy. CUTRIC has developed the best-in-class zero-emissions bus consulting team that meets the needs of the best-in-class transit agencies in North America. We've grown our team to over half a dozen experts that are interdisciplinary and cross and multidisciplinary. It includes everything from physics, mathematics, economics to top tier social scientists that are now joining us and helping us understand how certain communities can benefit most from the economic and sociological benefits associated with zero emissions bus technology. We also have a group of facilities experts, utility experts, and core editorial experts who are helping us make all of this technical knowledge understandable, comprehensible, and publicly accessible.
Hello, everyone. My name is Parvati Pillai. I work as the program manager for ZEB Consulting Services at the Canadian Urban Transit Research and Innovation Consortium. For the past 6 years, CUTRIC's ZEB Consulting Services has supported the energy transition for almost 30 transit agencies in North America and has completed nearly 50 decarbonization projects to progress our communities towards a low-carbon smart mobility future. The increasing rate of repeat customers we have, the high customer satisfaction scores we receive, and the new customer requests that we receive based on recommendations from our past clientele all speak volumes about our customer-centric service delivery model that delivers science-based results utilizing our empirically validated tool sets that receive continuous developmental insights from our industry and transit partners. We are recognized as neutral, scientific, and credible consulting service providers to guide partners in the electrification and decarbonization pathway at the government level. Natural Resources Canada recently commissioned CUTRIC to develop a zero-emission bus implementation process map to guide the country's transit agencies to zero emissions. Today, we are launching the next generation of our services. There are 3 tool sets that we are bringing to you with refinements and innovation like never before. We are putting all the lessons we learned from our diverse experience working with a variety of partners to bring you the 3rd generation of our predictive performance modeling tool, RODI, in its most sophisticated form. RUDI tool is CUTRIC's own predictive performance simulation toolset that has supported multiple North American transit agencies to decarbonize using battery electric and hydrogen fuels and electric systems by establishing the technological, economic, social, and environmental business cases. RUDI 3.0 is a highly precise, scientifically accurate, empirically validated, and trustworthy set of tools that CUTRIC has developed over half a decade of innovation using the most advanced concepts in mathematics, physics, engineering, and social sciences that help transit agencies go from strategic focus setting to feasibility analysis and implementation planning. Here we are launching the third generation of RUDI with sophisticated functionalities to support your energy transition. You can utilize RUDI 3.0 to reduce the decarbonization complexity by enabling you to find the most suitable technology for your transit system. CUTRIC places the transit agency's interests, needs, and constraints at the core of our work and architect science-based, quality-assured technical solutions for you. Understand your energy, fuel needs, charging times, electrical load, and optimal locations for installing charging or refueling stations, the implementation requirements, and work collaboratively with the power providers in your jurisdiction to facilitate seamless energy transition is part of our goal. We can help you predict success rates and vehicle ranges based on actual modeling of vehicles considering your routes, operational realities, and ridership, and design an electrification plan that enables you to attain electrification confidence to progress to the procurement phase. We can help you get an accurate picture of the number and type of vehicles you need to purchase, the number and type of chargers to procure, the facility retrofits you need and modifications you will be requiring to have, the schedule and block adjustments you need to consider, and the costs that you need to plan for. We can help establish the accurate life cycle emission reduction potential for the planned decarbonization pathway. We can ensure your facilities and sites are assessed thoroughly from the technological, environmental, economic, and social lenses when deciding a fleet concept for you to pursue. We can heighten your budget planning prudence, utilizing our economic analysis tools to ensure you get an accurate picture of the expected capital and operational expenditures, the return on investment, the return on assets, and your expected payback period. We can also, more importantly, get all the feasibility analysis aspects that you need to cover to obtain the funding support from the federal funding agencies for capital expenditures completed at a not-for-profit rate using a widely recognized and empirically validated toolset. Cloud Transit 2.0 is the second generation of CUTRIC's cloud-based operational data analytics platform designed to collect, integrate, analyze, and report on real-time operational data on the performance of the currently operational zero-emission buses and associated infrastructure in the country. CUTRIC collects data from several data loggers in real time from buses all over North America and utilizes that data to validate the feasibility analysis predictions. The operational data analysis using Cloud Transit is critical for transit agencies as it enables them to understand the real operational efficiencies of their assets, the issues and challenges involved in electrification, and the steps to mitigate them. CUTRIC manages the operational registries as a part of our Cloud Transit data analytics wing that collects information on the lessons learned, challenges, risks, and issues associated with the deployment and operation of zero-emission vehicles and allied infrastructure. As a part of CUTRIC's Pan-Canadian Battery Electric Bus Demonstration and Integration Project Phase 1, Cloud Transit 2.0 is enabling the performance data integration and comparisons involving various data sources and assets across multiple transit systems, cities, and utility partners in Canada.
To help our transit agencies move forward even faster, especially when you're at the beginning of your planning journey, CUTRIC has created RUDI Lite. This is a simplified tool that lets us do a fleet average for your overall fleet so that you can get information about greenhouse gas emissions reduction, battery electric and fuel cell bus performance across your fleet quickly and efficiently. You can get the information to your city council, to your mayor, and to the decision makers at your transit agency. This RUDI Lite tool helps you get those answers in a short, expedient amount of time, especially when you're at the beginning of the journey and not quite sure how sophisticated the electrification of your fleet will need to be. After you use the RUDI Lite tool, you'll be better prepared to go deeper into the details with our RUDI 3.0 tool on a block-by-block basis.
CUTRIC ZEB consulting services is not limited to zero-emission buses alone. We can simulate and support our clients in modeling light duty, heavy duty, and medium duty applications. Zero emission bus modeling is not limited to battery electric and hydrogen power systems either. We do renewable natural gas applications and do comparative analytics involving diesel powertrain performance as well. We model passenger cars, trucks, municipal provincial fleets, and electric shuttles in our work as well. In a nutshell, we support our partners from start to finish in their electrification and decarbonization journey.
So CUTRIC right now is in the process of doing a full implementation planning strategy for our ZEB rollout here at London Transit. They had in the past undertaken the route analysis. We were very pleased with that work and have proceeded with full implementation planning at this point in time.
Well, CUTRIC is providing really an overall kind of integration service with our eBus pilot. It involves both TransLink, York Region Transit, and Brampton Transit, together with key manufacturers of ABB, Novabus, Siemens, and New Flyer. So it's a fantastic way of bringing all the critical players together. We're using Cloud Transit, we're using Route I as well as part of that overall pilot program.
CUTRIC's work is helping London Transit reach our goals in that we will have a full implementation roadmap as we start our venture into zero emission buses and the related infrastructure, which will help London Transit meet the City of London's climate action plan, as well as our requirements with respect to electrification.
CUTRIC is really playing a critical part in our overall transition to essentially a zero emissions bus fleet. So you can imagine this is a critical time for transit agencies across North America who are transitioning away from fossil fuels to a lower carbon fleet vehicles and other modes of mobility and transportation services. So really understanding what is the proper way to engage and execute that transition is really what we're learning together with CUTRIC and our eBus pilot program members. And this involves battery electric bus deployment, it involves route planning, it involves understanding how the technology is interacting between chargers and the vehicles themselves and all the other elements of systems and tools that are being used in that whole new, essentially new ecosystem of zero emissions bus transit or transit bus vehicles.
The plan that CUTRIC is working on for London Transit will enable us to essentially use that as a communication tool, make our municipal council aware of the implications associated with a project of this nature, the good and the bad. Of course, we want to make sure that everybody goes into this project with with a very good understanding of what the risks are as well as the rewards, and it's our hope and certainly our understanding that the plan that CUTRIC is working on for us will touch all of those bases and will allow us to have those very important conversations with our stakeholders.
The critical results are really to inform better investment decision making. Really, ultimately, we want to know how to deploy battery electric buses. We want to know how best to deploy our charging infrastructure that's going to be in our transit centers, and how to deploy our charging infrastructure that's going to be en route. So that involves understanding how this system is performing, and to what level of service can we use the current technology to provide transit services to our customers across the region, and where can it best to be applied. The technology is constantly changing, and this is going to be a long journey, but it's also a learning journey. It's an opportunity for us to learn along the way or shift and pivot. So CUTRIC is really playing a role in helping us understand where those investments are going to be made, how they're going to be made, and what timing they're going to be made in the future.
London Transit has had experience with CUTRIC in the past. CUTRIC was certainly a known commodity when it came to zero emission buses and obviously their expertise in that field. We've certainly been watching very closely the pilots that have been in place that CUTRIC has been integral in. And essentially we were looking for someone with that experience. We started out with CUTRIC with the route analysis tool. We were very pleased with the results of that. We were very appreciative of the approach that CUTRIC took, certainly looking at all aspects of data, very scientific approach, which ultimately resulted in a product that we were very confident in, and would certainly will be integrated into our eventual implementation plan.
Well, when choosing kind of any technical services professional organization to help us, with our fleets or with our facilities, we often look for a number of critical factors. I think one of the key things that we really benefit from is, of course, professional project management and overall governance. Our e-bus pilot is rather complex. We've got multiple stakeholders, we've got multiple participants. We've got very emerging and new technology that we're dealing with. So good professional project management and governance is really important in this regard. I would say the second aspect is really good prompt technical service and technical expertise. So the team has to know the latest aspects of what is on the market, what's available. It has to bring out the best of the project participants, which I think it definitely does. And, and finally, it has to have deep experience in this sector. So, this is an emerging, there are emerging technologies, emerging fields, emerging disciplines. There's new things that we're learning every single day. So having technical and subject matter expertise in not only the pilot team, but also in the CUTRIC team is really, really important for us.
We certainly appreciate the expertise in all of the various facets that are being touched on in this implementation plan. CUTRIC has brought experts to the table, and like I said, they've resulted in some really challenging conversations. But I think at the end of the day, that's going to result in a much more comprehensive plan that has given consideration to all of those inputs.
I think what's really interesting that I've learned with respect to the work with CUTRIC is that, yes, there's the technical interactions between the interoperability between all these different pieces of equipment that we're bringing together, but there's new areas that we didn't realize that we will need as we go through this transition phase. So, one of the things was we learned, or I learned the other day that technical support is really important. And I didn't even think about that when I thought of, a battery electric bus fleet.
In terms of advice, I would say if you want to follow the roadmap that London took, look to the experts. We certainly look to CUTRIC as being an expert. I think it's important that you plan carefully. This is a significant undertaking when you're talking about converting an entire fleet and then the associated facilities. That's not a small undertaking, especially when we're all trying to continue to provide service while we're undertaking that transition. So certainly planning carefully is a big piece. I think you need to understand the risks. I think you need to work with consultants who are also willing to share the experience that they've had on other projects. That learning from others is a key aspect, and and continue to I think you have to have an open mind, obviously, but also continue to recognize that this technology is changing very rapidly, and you know, the number of projects that CUTRIC is involved in, and certainly the level of expertise of their team has certainly they're keeping up with that technology, given the vast experience that they've got, which is great.
Well, number one, get started. So that's the number one thing. Don't wait. You've got to get started. It's going to be a long journey. Transitioning from fossil fuels to a low carbon fleet or a zero emissions fleet is going to take a long time, possibly, you know, several decades to get there. And so number one is get started, because the climate emergency is today. So that's number one. Number two, you won't know everything right from the beginning. You have to be able to learn as you go. So take that with a grain of salt. Take solace in that there are some unknowns out there. Don't worry about them. Just get started and learn as you go, and be ready to pivot and adjust as you learn. And then I would say the third thing is, you know, learn from those that have gone before you. You know, we work, you know, in a sector, in an industry that loves to share, and there's no competition. And so if you can find peers that have tested something, piloted something, you know, built a new depot that's, you know, that's going electric, if they've looked at other low carbon technologies such as hydrogen or battery electric bus fleet, they've expanded a certain area, or they have topography that's similar to yours, reach out to them and find out what they've learned from that. Get your hands dirty. So those are the top three pieces of advice that I would have.
As you have heard from the Canadian transit agencies, we need to act now. The Government of Canada has a 5,000 zero-emission bus mandate, and CUTRIC is committed to helping our transit agencies and municipalities get there as soon as possible. We are here to help. Plan smart and enhance your decarbonization confidence with CUTRIC.
Wow, well, what time we are in right now. It's been crazy, the journey that CUTRIC has been on in the last 6 years. I can't believe just how far we've come. Yosiba, welcome to the stage. Parvati, welcome. Kelly, Ralph, thank you so much for your insights today. It's honestly just incredible to see how much work we can achieve when we work together and we really build on lessons learned. Yosiba, take me through a little bit about the history. 6 years in the making, 3 generations of Route I, a new generation of Route I Lite, and now Cloud Transit 2.0. What has happened and how have we managed to get here?
Well, high level, in the minute that we have, you know, some folks may remember on the line, and I think we've got some colleagues from Brampton, York region on the line here today. They'll remember that when we started it all back in 2016, you know, really nobody was doing anything in this space. There were a couple small pilots out there, but there wasn't any planning, really like a structured, standardized planning program, and there weren't long-term demonstration deployments out there. So now fast forward to where we are, we're in this great world where not only have we had a whole lot of experience doing a lot of planning to add more and more variables, everything from will the bus run out of power to how much will it cost, to the electricity, to is there enough hydrogen, is the tank the right size, will there be enough riders, is it in the right social equity domain? We've got all of that. And now we also have loggers on buses in Vancouver and in Brampton and in York region. And those loggers are pulling back streams of data. And we're looking through this stream of data, we're aggregating it. And now for the first time in Canadian history, we can truly compare what did we predict would happen based on manufacturing specifications of what we think is coming off the manufacturing factory floor, what we think our agencies look like in terms of ridership and our topography, and what is actually happening on the road. And that delta, very often we're seeing very little delta. We're seeing a lot of validation, so that is great. But where we do see a delta and a difference, we want to do a deep dive. Is it the ridership? Is it the HVAC? Is it something about the manufacturing specifications? That's a huge amount of power in the hands of municipalities municipalities that I just don't think existed before, because frankly, diesel is cheap energy and historically fossil fuels have been cheap. So you've never had to do this micro granular level of analysis to decide to put a diesel bus on the road. So it's a brave new world. And I think it gives all the power in the world to the municipalities and the transit agencies and regions to control the narrative forward.
100%, giving the power to the transit agencies that are running the buses, so important. Ralph, you also spoke to it a little bit with our e-bus demonstration project and TransLink's involvement. How has working with CUTRIC really helped TransLink reach its goals over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's a great, fantastic question. I think that this aspect of the data is really the critical thing, the objective analysis that CUTRIC has brought to really testing what we had predicted or what we had estimated into the future. And it's proved that we're actually performing better than we had originally estimated 3-4 years ago. So that is really, really good. We've learned some really technical things, like what is going to be our spec for battery health as the life cycle of the buses go on in years. What do we want that battery health spec to be? We've learned how big the en route charger has to be, like how many kilowatts does that thing have to be versus the battery combination, because it's kind of like filling up a beer glass, right? How big do you have the glass and how big does the tap have to be? Those kind of things are the great things that we're learning as we go to now take our pilot to the next phase of significant implementation of buying and procuring and building all that infrastructure for BEBs.
Mm-hmm. And Kelly, you mentioned as well too, with CUTRIC completing the implementation for London Transit, we're really, enabling you to see what steps need to be taken. Take us through a little bit about why it's just so important for London Transit to reach this milestone of going electric.
Well, certainly, I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. We all want to do everything we can as systems to help with green the environment. And this obviously is a significant step for most municipalities. And I think this, the undertaking that CUTRIC has done for us, as I said in the interview, it will be a key communication tool, because, the people that are knee deep in this, or the systems that are, further ahead than we are, certainly understand that this is not a simple journey. But unfortunately, many stakeholders don't have that same understanding. They think it's, very similar to going to the car lot and buying an electric car and taking it home and plugging it in my garage. So it's just, I think it's very important. We all want this to succeed, which means we need to do it right, not quickly. So, and I know Josipa talked earlier, we need to move. And I think there's, that general understanding that we all want to move forward, but we need to move forward in a manner that, as Rolf just talked about, that we're learning from those that have gone ahead of us, and that we're taking those lessons and we're integrating them into the plans that we're putting forward. And that's why it's so great working with CUTRIC, because CUTRIC's been involved in all of these, that they're taking those learnings and they're building those into the plans that they're preparing for the next agency that's in line.
Mm-hmm. It's a really great point. So Parvati, maybe just in the minute that we have, can you take us through how CUTRIC is actually learning from all of the transit agencies, feasibility studies that we're completing and constantly improving, right? Like we've gone from the first generation to the third, and that's not just because, we're plucking things out of thin air. Like we are literally looking through things and really providing such a very smart tool for our transit agencies. So Parvati, walk us through that a little bit, if you don't mind.
For sure. So it is a combination of quality and quantity, right? So we have, at this particular point, completed more than 40 projects for transit agencies in decarbonization sector over the past several years. That's a footprint that is unmatched. And I believe the quality improvements have already been unparalleled as well, because through each project, we have learned from our clients. Our clients have been the major source of our learning as well. So we learn from our transit agencies, in terms of how they want to cater the electrification to suit the needs of their communities. And we work with our clients. And it is not just transit agencies, we work extensively with our utility partners as well. So it's a combination, it's a consortium of partners that have enabled us to produce this tool at the start, and to refine it and to sophisticate it to reach generation 3 at this particular point. And it is not like overnight thing, as you said, Grace, and it is not from thin air. It has been a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, and a lot of partnership and collaboration with our members and transit agencies.
Yeah, really true. Thanks so much, Parvati. So I've just dropped a link in the chat there. If you are interested and want to learn a little bit more about CUTRIC services and how we've been able to help Kelly and Ralph at TransLink and London Transit, but how we can help you, feel free to reach out to us. We have our Route I email there, and that will come through to us, and we can get in touch and walk through what we are capable of, and really taking you to that next step to really decarbonize our transit fleets. That's the goal here. And we've heard from the Zero Emission Transit Fund team at Infrastructure Canada today. CUTRIC is well equipped to do it. We have a huge contribution agreement with Infrastructure Canada right now. Let's leverage it. Let's honestly get more zero emission buses on the road. So Yospa, a final word from you before we have to log off, because we are over time.
Yeah, I think the final word is, Kelly, we learned a lot about really efficient, optimized schedules from London. So then we took that, we're like, we've never seen this before. Let's go stick that over there. And from TransLink, we learned about the complexity of building chargers at pre-built, already optimized transit terminal hubs, where you have dozens of buses pulling in right behind each other on an angle where the chargers won't fit easily. So each agency, like Parthi said, we learn something and then we try and bake it into the next round. And that is the benefit of a consortium of agencies. I do want to do a quick shout out to the utilities. Every single time we do a project, the utilities come to the table and they're learning too, because they don't have a transit division. And so this does help move the whole industry together. So thank you again to all the transit agency members and the utilities that have helped us to get this stage. And we hope to look forward to using Route I 3.0 to get your agencies off the ground and running with the zero emissions technology ahead.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you all in the next session, which has already begun. So check us out over there, and we'll also see you for networking later this evening. Thanks again. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.